Hey, Carter County. It's spring, hence the pretty picture behind me. Now, look, I've been following this thread on Facebook for the past few days that's kind of left me shaking my head. The conversation has been the public's opinion on a private pond and on how some road work could potentially impact it. Now, what I'm about to tell you has nothing to do with that pond or the road work, because I haven't been covering this as a story. Instead, I want to focus on one comment in this thread in particular to hopefully prepare you for participating in local government, if and when the need arises. Now, while this specific instance is particular to my hometown of Ardmore, Oklahoma, the general information I'm sharing should be pretty relevant darn near anywhere in the US. Now, keep in mind too that the Facebook post that I've been following, the original post was from the personal profile of a local business owner. The comments are from a few dozen just random people, and no official documents have been shared. No official Facebook profiles that I recognize anyways are involved in these comments. Essentially, everything that prompted this is hearsay. And in all of this ire shared in this Facebook post, all of this ire directed towards the city commission for apparently approving this road project, comments are peppered with various accusations, some outdated contact information from like 3 years ago. But then this one piece of advice that's just mwah. Just show up at City Hall when the commissioners have their meeting, and let 10 or 12 news show up too. The city wouldn't like that. Sure, if you watch too much national news, you might have been inspired by some of those clips from raucous public meetings where residents are making impassioned speeches to their elected officials in an effort to put pressure on them publicly, I guess? But if you watch too much local news, you'll probably remember that the protesters didn't get to speak because they weren't on the agenda. Or if they did get to speak, the council, commission, or board took no action. Look, as a reporter, I have covered hundreds of public meetings in Alabama, in Ohio, and even as an education reporter right here in Carter County, Oklahoma. I've seen a lot of attempts to deliver these speeches at public meetings fall flat, really just because of a misunderstanding about how these public meetings work. So let's figure out how we got here. And more importantly, what you can do to actually have an impact locally. Look, if a public body approves something you don't like, it didn't necessarily happen as a result of some shady backroom dealing or the good old boy system. It probably happened during a public meeting, when the public didn't show up. I'm just as critical of the government as the next person, and I abhor the people who abuse their power and privilege at any level of government. That's one of the reasons why I'm a reporter. Sure, some bad moves are made in bad faith, but other bad moves are sometimes just made as a mistake. It's going to take an active electorate to tell the difference between the two. Local government, and more particular, the public bodies that perform the day-to-day business on behalf of the public, they're still required by law to publish notice of their meetings. For all of the legitimate criticism that Ardmore could and should receive as a city, the city's website Agenda Center is pretty legit. We're in the third month of 2023, and 13 government bodies just within the city of Ardmore have already published updated information this year. 13. To see what I mean, visit the website ardmorecity.org/agenda center, and you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, so let's say there's a topic that you absolutely have to talk about. When you attend, at what point do you charge the microphone? How long do you get to go on your tirade? Will they be taking a vote then or later in the meeting? How does this work? It turns out no to all of that. If you really, really, really want to own a government meeting, I'm not going to help you. Instead, do an internet search for Robert's Rules of Order. Go down that rabbit hole, go to town. But if you just want to make your concerns on the public record, first and foremost, find out the actual process. Now, for a lot of bodies that I've covered, they require public speakers to be added to the agenda ahead of time. Whether it's a city commission, the county commission, a board of education, whoever, any other public body, a lot of times that's as simple as making a phone call and telling the administrator, I want to be put on as a public speaker at the next meeting. That's it. Tell them your name and what you want to talk about. There are a few things, though, you should not expect. First, don't expect to do it anonymously. Because you're speaking during a public meeting, your name will be noted in the official record of that meeting, along with whatever the topic is you discussed. So if you want to be recorded as a serious speaker or as a raving lunatic, act accordingly. Second, don't expect an unrestricted platform. Many government proceedings will give public speakers, a time limit, anywhere that I've seen from 90 seconds up to a few minutes. All of this in an effort just to keep the proceedings moving. And then finally, don't expect a discussion with or any sort of action by that elected body. Sure, some members may choose to answer a couple of questions or maybe address some concerns, but much of the process is really just a formal way for the public to redress their grievances. Furthermore, elected boards can only vote on an item that's on the agenda because of, the whole public notice thing. So don't expect any action to be taken by the board once you speak. Now, look, I know that it's hard to not get defensive when the government does something you don't like, but thankfully, American democracy has some interesting safeguards in place that can actually empower the public and also hold those in government accountable. We have some powerful rights once we know how to use them.